So here we are at the end of yet another week, and here on this channel that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week was, to put it lightly, pretty damn wild in the NBA world, as a scandal got brought to light that will probably end up shaking the future outlook of the Eastern Conference, so we definitely still have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Andres, and he says that as a Celtics fan, he thinks the Celtics will be heavily impacted by the loss of coach Ime Udoka and are no longer contenders as a result of it. So as I mentioned in the intro, the controversy that struck the NBA world this week was the fact that Celtics coach Ime Udoka got suspended for the entire season as a result of him breaking team rules. I don't really feel the need to go into more details than that, because all of you likely already know the context, but basically he's done for the year, and he might possibly be done for good. Last season the Celtics were able to take the leap that they took because of the fact that at the midway point of the season, the chemistry of the team was at an all-time high, they fully bought into the philosophy that Udoka was implementing, and he was at the heart of a lot of their success immediately in his first year coaching the team. Saying the Celtics will fall off completely and won't be able to contend anymore because of that fact that he's no longer in charge does sound like a pretty big overreaction here. However, you can't just write it off completely and pretend that it won't affect the Celtics at all. We may not think about this very often, but athletes are humans too at the end of the day, and Udoka seemed to have a really strong connection with the players on the team during their playoff run that you can't easily replicate. The teams that play together and buy in completely are typically the strongest teams when it matters, and now they're going to be dealing with this off-the-court distraction. Where I disagree with the original take is that they're going to fall off to the point where they're now first-round exits, because the Celtics are pretty much bringing back everybody from the team last year, and they also brought in Malcolm Brogdon, so they could be an even better team on paper, but I could see them not being as dominant on the court as they were a year ago for sure, because of these possible chemistry issues. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from the women, and they say that Ben Simmons is about to have a better year than James Harden this season. These two got traded for each other last year, so naturally they're going to be connected in discussions moving forward, but this is certainly a hot take. The last time Ben Simmons was healthy and on the court, he was not a better player than Harden or anywhere close to it. However, since that time, Harden has showed signs of slowing down, which is likely why this take has come about. The issue, though, is that there's a very good chance that Ben Simmons also comes out and takes a while to get going because of everything that's happened in the last year. Ben hasn't played an NBA game in over a year, he has recurring back issues that have been flaring up that you have to worry about now too, and he's also probably not going to be as heavily involved offensively now that he's playing alongside two dominant offensive threats in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. In Philadelphia, the ball was in Ben's hands every possession, and he was the one setting things up, but that's not guaranteed anymore in Brooklyn. For Harden, he obviously can't touch Simmons defensively, but he's still a better overall playmaker than Simmons. Even with his burst slowing down, he's still a much better scorer, and he's going to be vital to the success of Philadelphia. I think Ben Simmons could very well be a vital piece in Brooklyn to help address their defensive needs, but Harden is still the better player at this point in time until proven otherwise. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Toasty, and he says that the 76ers have solved all of their problems from last year and are about to make a huge run because of it. This is a pretty bold claim to make even for the biggest 76ers fans in the world to hear. The 76ers have absolutely had a busy offseason, making tons of moves to try to improve themselves, and as the original take states, they have targeted their areas of weakness in these moves. However, saying they they quote-unquote solved their problems completely is a pretty hard thing to get on board with fully. Instead, a more accurate phrase I would say on this topic is that they have quote-unquote addressed a lot of their weaknesses. Only time will tell whether or not the moves that they made work out and actually solve anything, but for now we can definitely say that they addressed the areas of need in an attempt to do so. For example, last season the 76ers had the worst production from their bench in the league. In the regular season, they had a bottom 3 rank in terms of bench scoring, and in the playoffs, they had the lowest scoring bench. Finding players that could impact the game while their starters get some rest was vital, and this summer, they brought in quite a few players that could possibly do that. They traded for DeAnthony Melton, signed Montrezl Harrell, signed Daniel House, and they signed PJ Tucker. Those are 4 guys who play extremely hard, they buy into the roles required of them, and a few of them already have experience playing with James Harden, so the chemistry will make it an easy transition. I like the way that the team approached the offseason, but by no means was anything solved yet. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Bean, and he says that the same 8 teams that made the playoffs in the Eastern Conference last year will make it again this year. This is an interesting idea to think about because none of the playoff teams from last year really got any worse, but there is a team in the Cleveland Cavaliers that on paper should be a group that breaks into the playoff picture this year. If they do that, then the question becomes which team will drop out. That's where things are going to get tight. This is a similar topic to something that I've discussed in a prior video, but not quite the same thing, but back then I said that I believe the absolute locks for the playoffs next year in the East are the Bucks, Celtics, 76ers, Heat, and Nets. That leaves 4 teams being the Hawks, Cavaliers, Bulls, and Raptors, fighting for 3 remaining spots. The biggest reason why I disagree with this take here is because that I think the Cavaliers are closer to being a lock for the playoffs than they are being a fringe team. So if we slide them in, then one team from last year is falling out. It's so tough because the Hawks just went out and traded for DeJounte Murray, so they should be improved too. The Bulls were sitting atop the conference for a while last year when they were healthy, and the Raptors are building something special with a mix of youth and experience. Right now, I'm probably leaning towards the Chicago Bulls being the odd team out because they were the most quiet this offseason, not really making any major moves to improve themselves, and Lonzo Ball is still struggling to get healthy. It's definitely a toss-up, but I think there will be a slightly different playoff picture next season. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.